And I said before, this Devers trade is a nut shot that keeps on giving. Do you know what a ring ding ding is? You ever heard of ring ding dinging?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, so when I was in high school, we used to play this game called BCW Nitro. It was on Nintendo 64. Yeah, and there was a move. It was a wrestling game, and there was a move where you can get down on one knee, and then you could give someone a nut shot between the legs, and then they give them a nut shot, they'd fall down. We used to call it giving them a ring ding dinger, and that's what this is. We're getting ring ding ding by this because the Devers trade. Because when you think it's over, and I'm gonna pull up, we're gonna talk about the Betts deal. When the Betts deal was over, it was over. When the Devers deal is over, it isn't over. It keeps on sodomizing us, and that's what's killing me about the Devers deal.
60-40, a Red Sox podcast. Big John and Sean, hot takes, special guest. This is 60-40. Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to the most electrifying podcast in Red Sox Nation. I am your co-host, Big John. Alongside of me is my other co-host, the Big Bowski, Sean Jones. Sean, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Finally had a little bit of traction, news, and new things to talk about today. So excited to go through that, but had a pretty good weekend. What about yourself?
Same. Me and you were going back and forth earlier in the week saying, I don't know what we're going to talk about this week. We'll figure it out when we get there. We'll find some filler content, which we were prepared to do. And then the trade goes through, which we'll talk about in this podcast. Probably the majority of this podcast will be talking about the trade. And the more that I've dissected it, I think you too, Sean, the more that we both have dissected it, the more passionate we have become.
Yeah.
Over the trade in retrospect. Other than that, things have been good. Sean, when you were younger, did you have a nickname by any chance? Because every episode I call you a different nickname. So
no, I kind of like to switching it up, to be honest, because I didn't really. I mean, Sean Jones, pretty plain name. It's not much to go up there.
There's a lot of Sean Jones out there.
I know, and then both are one syllable too, so that didn't help much either. So to be honest with you, I didn't really. I think in college, people would throw around Bones Jones, like the John Bones Jones, because it was close enough there. But I think that was really the only one that ever had much
Not
traction.
Jonesy. No one called you Jonesy. I feel like Jonesy would be one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one off, but nothing consistent along there. But no, I kind of like I never know what's coming with those, so I'd say just keep them going.
It's going to get hard after a while. Do you know, today you were the Big Bowski, kind of in honor of Royal Rumble that happened this weekend, which I did not watch. But do you know who the Big Bowski is? Any idea?
I do not, actually. I'm not super well-versed in that area.
It's okay. For those out and listen to the podcast, hey, first of all, thanks for listening. And if you are listening, which you are, because you're listening to me speak right now, please go ahead and like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. We are one of the fastest growing podcasts in Red Sox Nation, which is awesome. And a lot of thanks goes out to you guys for listening to us and making us one of the fastest growing podcasts in Red Sox Nation, which is awesome. But if you guys get a chance, and Sean, you too, go look up Val Venus from the Attitude Era and WWE. He was something else. Like, the stuff that he was doing, the shit he was doing on television would never fly in a bazillion years today. The guy was ridiculous. He had a calling card that would go, "Hello, ladies," and then like the saxophone would play, the sultry music would play, and some of the promos he cut were, I mean, like I said, borderline X-rated, but the guy was awesome. In terms of he was the epitome of the Attitude Era, if you watched during that area. So that was my callback today for you. You were the Big Bowski, which is also a great nickname, and I wish more people had that nickname. Right?
Hey, we yeah. I mean, we can get it going. Like I said, I'll leave to you to what we want to call in the intro. So
I like Big Country too, which is got to be before your time. But when Big Country Bryant Reeves was playing, I know you're. That's one of my favorite nicknames of all time is Big Country.
Yeah, I feel like I've at least heard that one, but no, definitely probably before my time. Not sure.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick. I'd say top 8 pick, but he was dominant in college basketball. I believe he played for Texas. One of the best college basketball players, had like a military crew cut, flat top type thing, played for the Grizzlies, wasn't very good, but his nickname was the Big Country. So great nickname.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do what we do every episode and drink some beers.
Let's do it.
Drinking beers, or drink some beers. Big John and Sean.
terrible job. It's all head. Where's my beer?
Man, come
How'd you
on.
get
We
service? And I know, like, and I
gotta do
have
better than that next time.
100%. I'm like, when the music's playing, what am I going to do? I'm like, I'm gonna grab a frosty glass and pour some beer into it. I'm trying to do that. And
It's getting better over time there, but
Yeah, we'll get there.
you'll have to let me know how it tastes halfway through the episode when you actually get past the foam.
That's a lot of head. What beer do you have?
I have, it's called Green Yield by Drowned Lands. I'm not familiar with this. I went to the bottle shop nearby and picked one that I thought looked good. So I have zero insight into this other than I thought the can looked good. I looked on Untapped on the app we were talking about, had a rating above 4, hazy IPA, so wanted to give it a shot.
Let me see that can again. That is a pretty looking can. That's
Yeah,
great
it looks
marketing
good.
right there.
I know,
Blue
yeah.
Pale
It caught my eye for sure.
Ale. Okay. Where's it brewed?
What does it say on here? God, I literally saw it earlier. There's so many words on this thing, it's hard to find.
It's all about the
Warwick, New York.
I do not know where Warwick. I'm not familiar with Warwick, New York either.
Yeah,
it made its way down to you.
But I'll decide to give it a try.
So the one that I have, it's Thomas Hooker. It's called Nor'easter. We were supposed to have a Nor'easter today. We didn't. We've had the snowstorm come up here. I feel like it's a proper beer for this New England winter as we hit into February. It's called a Winter Embracing Brew. It's brewed in Bloomfield, Connecticut. So another beer from Bloomfield, Connecticut, which is about an hour from me. So I'm surprised I get all these Bloomfield beers to me, but I do. Something about the water in Bloomfield, I guess.
Yeah.
And it says, I thought it was interesting when I was reading it. So it's the character's warmth, spice, and everything nice. Brewed to celebrate winter New England, Nor'easter Lager possesses a hearty malt flavor, delicately accented by mild winter spices. My first thought is, what the hell's mild winter spices? Like, what is that, yellow snow? They piss in my beer? Like, what is mild winter spices? Nutmeg,
I do not know.
clover. I feel like all my beers have nutmeg.
Peppermint, maybe. I don't know.
Let me take my first sip, and I'll tell you right now what I think of it. Caramel. I'm getting better at describing my beers. First pod we did, I said beer tastes like beer. Kind of a caramel hint to it. Actually, a lot of caramel in it. It's good. It's a good winter beer.
Yeah. We even got a little bit of some snow flurries down here in Atlanta yesterday, which was crazy. And it was bizarre, though, because it was sub 30 all day, like around 25 degrees, but the snow was not sticking, which I do not understand the science behind that. So
has to do with, not that I'm a meteorologist or anything, but it's got to do with the temperature of the surface. It's too warm for it.
Yeah, but I'll just say it's been sub 30 for days now. So that's why it was a little confusing. I don't know. It is what it is. So it would have been nice to stick since it was already coming down anyway, but we'll take the flurries when we can get them. So
how about your beer itself? What's it taste like?
It's good. It's a hazy. They called out a couple of the hops in here: a Mosaic, Citra, Simcoe. I'm not super well versed in hops, but I certainly have started to identify ones that tend to be in the beers that I like. So I think Citra has been one of my faves. Not that I could specifically tell you why I like it, but I notice it a lot in the beers that I've had. But now it's a good classic hazy New England style, very solid.
I mean, we're getting better at our beer description. Look, you see mine?
Yep.
I poured in a glass. It's nice and caramelly color.
Yeah, it is.
Good.
And the pour recovered a little bit there. So
that is great. If I had to put my rating on the beer, great pour recovery. For those out there who can't pour a beer correctly, don't worry about it. Thomas Hooker Nor'easter's got you covered. Pour it into a glass, it will settle itself. All right, let's get right into the trade. We're 8 minutes in. Let's tackle what everyone's probably waiting for us to tackle 8 minutes in. And we got news from today from Jeff Passan that Chicago White Sox and the Boston Red Sox made a trade. We heard about it all week that the Red Sox were looking to deal one of their pitchers, Bayo, Hicks, Sandoval. Everyone on Twitter said, "Oh my God, if Jordan Hicks gets dealt, that's a blessing in disguise. We couldn't ask for a better move. Jordan Hicks for a bag of balls, and we'd be happy." And that's kind of what the trade was, except we had to throw in David Sandlin. So it's Hicks, Sandlin, for a man named Gage Zeal, who has been traded, I believe, twice. This being a second time. First time with the Yankees to the White Sox for Austin Slater. Austin Slater is a bunch of garbage. And then back to the Red Sox today, which involves giving us up Sandlin and Hicks. But they end up eating we eat
$8 million total.
Who eats $8 million? Us or the White Sox?
We're eating $8 million. We're covering $8 million of the remaining $25 million.
25
for the next 2 years. Yeah,
Okay.
I know. It's disgusting.
I was trying to figure out how the math worked. Thanks for doing the math for me. So there was part of that dump. We are picking up that money, but it also frees up for us. Now do the math again for me. 8 million per year, right? It's 8
Yeah,
million per
about
year.
8.5 per year over the next 2 years, essentially. So
So
not nothing when you
it
look when
frees
they're
that
up
up.
against the CBT line there. So,
Right. First reactions to that trade, Sean.
yeah, I mean, there's kind of two ways to look at it. The first one is just in a vacuum and looking at the deal itself, and then the second one is given all the context of,
Start
how
with the
we got to
vacuum.
this
We'll get
point.
to the context. Start with
All
the
right.
vacuum.
Well, we'll start with the vacuum. Overall, this trade is fine. I don't looked at, is that how I wanted to use the David Sandlin asset? Probably not. But obviously, we've talked about it at a ton. Like when you look at the depth of not only the major league rotation, but what's probably going to be a really stacked AAA rotation to start the season too. And not to mention all the depth arms that are probably going to be in the majors that may not even make the rotation, made him expendable. He was the number 8 prospect for the Sox coming out of last year. So, not like he was just some throw-in, obviously. We've talked about it on past pods where, he's gotten up to 100 miles per hour in the past. The numbers were inconsistent in the minors, but I think he had started to sort of climb up the ranks a little bit. People were becoming more and more of a fan of him since we acquired him in that deal for Schreiber with Kansas City a year ago or whatever it was. But again,
February 2024. Lots happened. We'll get to that about the February trades. But yeah, February 2024 from the Royals for John Schreiber. Correct.
Okay. So yeah, is that how I wanted to use that asset? Probably not, because he is at least a good enough and well regarded enough prospect where it's not crazy to think that we couldn't have thrown him into a deal to provide actual value for us to get somebody back if we're going to use that. However, getting off Jordan Hicks obviously is a big plus. There's not really words to use how bad he was for the Sox last year. He had an 8.20 ERA, and it's not like that was some outlier because overall he had a above 6 with the Giants as well. He was a failed converted starter after being sort of a high leverage reliever earlier in his career with the Cardinals.
And
But
the
it
Blue
just has,
Jays.
yeah, I forgot he was even with the Jays. Yeah, but it hasn't panned out, obviously. Ever since he tried to become a starter, even as a reliever, he hasn't been very good. Not to mention that paying him $12.5 million to be a reliever puts him at like a top 10 highest paid reliever in baseball, which is ridiculous when you look at the lack of production they've gotten out of him. So getting off that contract obviously is good, especially when you take into account how the Red Sox have operated, and they have been penny pinchers over the past few years. So every dollar does count. Freeing up what is it, 8.5 million per season over the next 2 years isn't nothing, because it at least gives us a little bit more confidence they'll be willing to reallocate those funds somewhere. And I did look at this on the MLBTradeValue.com, and Hicks was valued at a negative 17.6 surplus.
So that contract, right? It's
Yep.
because of the contract and the years.
Well, I'd argue it's not just the contract, because he's also
Fair.
not very good. Sandlin was a 5.5, and then they had Zeal at a 1.0. So overall, they had the Sox winning the deal with a 1 surplus going out.
All that
or
matters.
coming
On
in,
paper, winning a deal.
and then a minus 4.1 going out. So
I mean, we won
No.
the Devers deal too. I said,
Sure.
we'll keep us, according to that website, we won the Devers deal, but like I said, we're focusing on a vacuum now. We'll go Adam Bomb in a little bit, but we're focusing on
Yeah.
a vacuum.
So I mean, obviously Zeal is probably not someone that you or I had even really heard of going into today. We can talk a little bit about his stuff, because I've looked into a little bit of what his repertoire is and stuff, but overall, like if we just look in a vacuum, this is a fine deal. I'm not like gonna lose sleep over losing Sandlin just because of the depth we have, and getting off the Hicks contract obviously was a high priority for the team. So totally fine in a vacuum, but unfortunately things are not done in a vacuum, and we'll get to that.
Well, you know what's interesting about Sandlin too? Because he has tantalizing stuff in the minors in terms of just his arsenal. His fastball grades out as a 60, curveball 50, slider 60, split 50, control 50. Those are all really good numbers for a guy in the minors. He's getting a little bit up there in age. You hit on it, his fastball can hit 100 miles per hour. It sits around 94, 97. And if he wants to really dial it back, it's 99 to 100 in a relief role. He's got a 90 to 93 mile per hour slider with a gyro. It's a gyro slider. Sweeper, splitter, And that splitter has a lot of late dive, so it could be his put away pitch in theory, and then throws a curveball around 77 to 81. So imagine tunneling that fastball with that curveball with that speed differential. Could be nightmares for hitters if you don't pick it up really quickly. 97 to 81.
Yeah.
Here's what worries me about Sandlin, though. And again, vacuum. I'm talking about just vacuum right now. I don't know how good I don't know how good he'll eventually be. But if I want to play devil's advocate, if I want to be pro Craig, pro Red Sox, and trying to make the case of why I don't think Sandlin's going to be that good, Sandlin's makeup reminds me very much like Jordan Hicks. It's kind of the same player, just in the minors, and you haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen them in the majors yet. I mean, he's got elite stuff. Sandlin does. 100-mile-per-hour fastball. So does Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks, I saw with the Cardinals, hit 103 miles per hour on a sinker, which is insane, right? So, again, if you look at just their velocity, their stuff, their raw stuff, Hicks, Sandlin, they're both absolutely electric. But how does it play out? And one of the problems that Sandlin had was he gave up 2.2 home runs per 9. In 2024. He had in 2024 as well, this is 24, he had a 5.34 ERA despite the 33% K rate and a 7% walk rate. And then last year when he got to AA, I'm trying to pull up the numbers for it. Sorry, AAA and Worcester, he struggled again, had a 7.36 ERA. So, and I think he's 25 years old. Actually, turns 25 in February. We're in the first day of February. This whole podcast is going to be about February theme. So he turns 25, I believe. So he's not a younger prospect. He'll be playing this year for the White Sox 100%. They'll bring him up because he's at the age right now where you just can't keep him down in the minors any longer. And he'd probably become a Rule 5 pick relatively soon if they keep him down there any longer, right? Right. Yeah. So I think he'll be starting this year in some capacity for the White Sox. And that's why, even though Sandlin is tantalizing on his Twitter feed with the 101-mile-per-hour bullpen in January last year and that speed, his numbers don't tell me that he's anything more than Jordan Hicks 2.0.
I'll say this with Hicks, though, even with the velocity and the quote unquote stuff that he has, he didn't generate much swing and miss stuff at all last year. I mean, he was 20th percentile strikeout rate, 30th percentile whiff rate, 7th percentile chase rate. And that's a terrible combination when you look that he's 18th percentile in walk rate. So he's putting guys on base because he's, wild and not hitting the strike zone. But then even when he's hitting the strike zone, guys are not swinging and missing. The only even remotely red on his baseball savant page is his fastball velocity, which we know about, his ground ball percentage and his barrel percentage, which everything else is deep in the blue, like sub 40. So, I mean, he just wasn't good last year. There's no way around it. So at least Sandlin has shown a little bit more strikeout stuff. And I know Hicks has had more of that previously and earlier in his career, but, recently it hasn't been there. And so getting rid of him was sort of just it was going to be a sunk cost this year and next year regardless. So that's why I'm saying in a vacuum, I don't mind just ripping the Band-Aid off. If Sandlin turns in to be a really good player, obviously that's unfortunate for the Red Sox, but the bad GMs are the ones that kind of hold on to things because they've already made the move and have invested in it versus being willing to sort of admit you're wrong, pivot off something earlier rather than later. Exactly. Cut your losses, move on. And so I will slightly applaud Craig for that, but obviously it didn't take a rocket scientist to say that the return to get Hicks in the first place wasn't that good anyway. So he loses a little bit of credit because it's not like this was some totally unforeseen thing that Jordan Hicks was going to struggle. Like he had an over 6 ERA when they traded for him.
Do you have the home runs per 9 for Hicks? I'm kind of curious what his are.
I can pull that up real quick.
And watching games last year, I can't remember when he came in with those 8, 10, 30-run leads, whether or not he gave them up with home runs or just got shellacked all over the field, whatever it was. That, to your point, he did not have swing and miss stuff, even though he could throw a sinker 103 miles per hour. I'm just curious I don't remember how he lost games, if it was just the fact they made solid contact against him, or it's because he was giving up home runs as well. I can't imagine his home runs per 9 have to be relatively high. You're throwing that fast, just stick the barrel of the bat out in the middle of the plate, you're going to hit home runs.
Yeah. I think it's with Boston last year was 1.4, which that feels low, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it feels average, to be honest. I was hoping to be not hoping. I don't want to hope it poor, but I want you to come back and say, it's a 2+ home runs per 9. The guy, misses bats and gives up dingers.
Yeah. But for his walks per 9 was close just under 6 last year. So like that is just
Terrible. That's right.
untenable. And his strikeout per walk ratio is 1.25, which is also just very, very bad.
Well, I mean, and then the guy that got back, Gage Zeal, is the opposite of that. So I have my numbers on Gage. You want to tell me what you saw?
Yeah, I looked into him a little bit. Seems like a really, really good control guy. Does not walk people. I think I saw a 4.2 walk rate, which is super low, obviously, and a 67.7% strike rate. So the guy just lives in the zone. Doesn't really try to make guys chase, but that's kind of how he has to live because he's a low strikeout guy. You know, he doesn't force a lot of swing and miss. I think I saw he's in the 92 to 94 range from a miles per hour perspective on his fastball. He's maxed out at like 96 or something. His numbers overall were fine last year. He had a 4.12 ERA in 22 games, started 21 of those. He pitched one game in Double-A, and then the rest of the year was in Single-A, so hasn't gotten super high up in the system quite yet. I think I saw his slider seems to be his best pitch. That's where he gets most of his swing and miss stuff. But yeah, like you said, very opposite of Hicks, you know, living in the strike zone, not striking a lot of guys out, but also not walking a ton of guys.
Craig Breslow has a foot fetish. You want to know why I say that? Because if a pitcher can throw a cutter or especially a sweeper, Craig is all over that. That combo, that's the foot fetish I'm talking about. Like that's what he lives off of. If you look at last year with Dustin May, that's why he traded Tibbs for May. Garrett Whitlock in the beginning of the year tried to make him throw more cutters. Gage Zeal, his number, you call it a slider, I'm calling it a sweeper. His best pitch is a sweeper. His second best pitch is a cutter. He tunnels a sweeper and cutter together. That's how he's been able to make it to the majors. You say sweeper cutter, Craig's ears immediately pop right up because that's exactly the profile of the pitcher he loves. That's why I said it's a foot fetish, because he likes some guys like the guys that can throw 100 miles per hour. Most people do. Craig's the guy that likes the sweeper cutter combos. Fastball, 92, 94. He can top out about 96 to 97, but he commands it very well. So below average velo, we both said it commands it very well. Sweeper in mid-80s, it's his best pitch. You call it a slider. Plus spin rates with good swing and miss when he throws it and able to tunnel it with his cutter, who throws about 89. So he throws them 70% of the time. So 70% of his pitches are a sweeper cutter mix, just to give you a heads up on it. That's just what he does. Change up upper 80s with fade. It's fringy. It's somebody's work. Curveball 80 miles per hour, 12 to 6, least used but highest whiff rate. And then the scouting grades: fastball 40, curveball 45, change up 45, cutter 50, sweeper 55, control 55. So again, sweeper, control, we already said that. Fastball not very good. With that being said, it wasn't. This trade, I think we agree upon, was not hinged upon getting back talent. It was, can I get rid of some money, save some money, and get Jordan Hicks the hell off my baseball team? If Gage makes it to the minors, he'll either be a back-end starter, which I don't think he'll be for the Red Sox, or a long reliever. And I think if he ever makes it with that level of control, if he has good control and he can learn how to pitch, could be a mid-relief pitcher, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. I agree. The upside's not really there with him, but to your point, we could have gotten nothing back and it would still be
happy.
Like, the point is that the prospect, it didn't really matter who was coming back. As I mentioned with the surplus value, like we gave up negative 4.1. So if we got back 0, then we would still technically, based on value for that website at least, would say that we won the trade. So, when I saw the Hicks and Salen for somebody, I was kind of like, I don't expect it to be a good prospect. Doesn't really matter if it is, because it's the deal was about getting off of the money, and that's really all it was to it. So, if Gage Zeal ends up being something awesome, that's the cherry on top. But I don't, I'm not going to lose sleep over it if he ends up flaming out or never making the major league roster for the Red Sox.
I was curious when the trade went down. 80% of Red Sox Twitter knew it was a salary dump. If it wasn't a salary dump, we probably could have gotten a lot more back, but it was a salary dump. And, that would have been a different story, because I still think Sandlin has potential. Trade chutzpah, like we could have gotten something back for him more than just Gage, but because we were they were eating most of Jordan Hicks' contract. And we watched this happen with Quinn Priester.
Yeah, he's going to be good now. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I do think there is value in admitting that it was not worth acquiring him and moving off of it. But to your point, yeah, I mean, this makes the Rafael Devers deal look worse and worse, and every move that is adjacent to it or involves a player from it continues to just make it look worse and worse. At the time, we thought it was bad. After the Justin May trade, we thought it was bad. After they lose Bregman, we thought it was bad. After this deal, it's still bad. They said, some people said that they salary dumped Devers. Well, they just salary dumped the guy that they salary dumped for. So
say that again, Sean. Say that again.
They salary dumped the player that they got back from salary dumping someone else. So they continue to just give away assets in order to cut costs and whatnot. But, basically the only way the Devers trade will not go down as a tremendous, tremendous disaster on all accounts is if Kyle Harrison turns into not just starting caliber pitcher, but like a top of the rotation guy. If he turns into a career fourth guy in the rotation, like it's a huge failure. Because that's, if you just look at the net of what we gave up and what we still have, like they traded Devers and Sandlin now for Kyle Harrison, Jose Bayo, who's not currently even in the top 30 prospects for the Red Sox, Gage Zeal, who we just talked about, very little upside, and 28.1 innings of Dustin May pitching to a 5.4 ERA. That is the totality of the return to this point. That does not even mention the fact that they got 114 games out of Bregman, and that is it. And that's really what got this whole ball rolling and, made it escalate to the situation that it ended up being. So, we're going to be a year removed from the trade with basically only Kyle Harrison to look at as an asset back. And, he obviously had previously been a really highly regarded prospect. He was top 25 at one point, one of the top left-handed pitchers just from a ranking standpoint in the minors. But, that reputation has slipped, and for good reason. He's been inconsistent, and we haven't really seen him do it at the major league level, despite having multiple opportunities both with San Francisco and with Boston. And so it completely hinges on him. And to be honest with you, even if he ends up being a decent starter, it's still not going to look like a good trade overall, because they had Devers locked up for 8 more seasons. And all we've talked about since we've started this podcast is how badly they need power, middle of the order bat, guy that can hit the ball over the fence. And we had it right in our backyard, and we took it for granted and tried to get cute, tried to be the smartest guy in the room. And now we're sitting here talking about how awesome it would be to sign the bottom of the barrel free agents just to salvage an offseason that, from the offensive side of the ball, has been pretty much a disaster.
I tweeted that after this trade happened, Kyle Harrison has to win a Cy Young for the Rafael Devers trade to make sense at this point. That's what we've come. The whole world is on his shoulders until maybe Bayo ever gets called up. Until Bayo gets called up, and it's on his shoulders.
Ever gets called up.
Yeah, if it's, it's on Harrison's shoulders to make this trade worth it. My argument to some people on Twitter as well, because some people are trying to come at me and telling me that's, it's not Breslow's decision to get rid of Devers. It was John Henry's. And I'm not going to, I don't know. I'm not going to argue either or. It might be true. It might not be true, but
nobody knows. Anyone who's arguing with you on that is like, they also have no ideas.
Well, they have no idea either. But my point is, it's Breslow's responsibility to get the value back. That's why they're paying him millions and not paying you, Sean, or me millions to go on there on Twitter and make deals for them. If Henry really did say to Breslow, go make a deal for Devers, cut his salary, he's not showing up to Fenway Fest, we can't market him, he's a net negative for us in terms of profitability, you have to go deal him. I'm paying you a lot of money to make sure you get value back. The Red Sox would have been better off trading Rafael Devers and eating another $8 million, whatever it was, and not getting Jordan Hicks back. Like, actually, Jordan Hicks was a net negative for him, because to bring Jordan Hicks back means, to what you said earlier, we traded the guy to trade the guy.
It cost us Sandlin, basically.
Correct.
Like, if we had, it's exactly right. If we had just been like, keep Hicks and we'll give you what, $17 million or 17 that ends up having to get paid out aside 17. From us. Like, if we give you 17 of Devers' contract and you keep Hicks, then Sandlin would still be in the organization right now. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and that was my problem with it, is that, okay, you're right. Let's say I'll give it to you. Henry told him to make the trade. That's fine. It's then Breslow's responsibility to bring back assets, and he brought back a net negative. He brought back Tibbs, who then brought back May, who was a net negative. Where we walk into 2026 now down Tibbs because you trade him for May, who was terrible for us, so bad that at the end of the year couldn't even make the rotation, and we had to cut bait with him. So that's my frustration with the trade in general. And I said before, this Devers trade is a nut shot that keeps on giving. Do you know what a ring ding ding is? You ever heard of ring ding dinging?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, so when I was in high school, we used to play this game called WCW Nitro. It was on Nintendo 64. Yeah. And there was a move, it was a wrestling game. And there was a move where you can get down on one knee and then you could give someone a nut shot between the legs. And then, they give them a nut shot, they'd fall down. We used to call it giving them a ring ding dinger. And that's what this is. We're getting ring ding ding by this because the Devers trade, because when you think it's over, and I'm going to pull up, we're going to talk about the Betts deal. When the Betts deal was over, it was over. When the Devers deal is over, it isn't over. It keeps on sodomizing us. And that's what's killing me about the Devers deal.
Yeah, and at least with the Mookie deal, it's like if you look at the string of transactions down the tree of like the players we got, there's some positive, at least a little bit,
Kind of.
Well, I'm just saying we turned
because they made it more than 1 year.
Well, no, I'm more saying like Verdugo turned into Weisert and Fitz was part of the Sonny Gray deal. So it's like, I'm not saying that like, obviously it's still an awful deal across the board. And like, we'll see how good Sonny Gray is. And I'm sure we could have gotten Sonny Gray with someone other than Fitz just because of the money and the age and whatnot. But I'm just saying like, look, we have a good player on our roster that was a result of a player that was, at least adjacently related to the Mookie Betts deal versus like every deal that we've made of players from the Devers deal. It's like every deal is worse than the last one. So it is just very, very frustrating to your point.
So let me ask you this, because I posted earlier today on Twitter after this trade has happened, because we're outside the vacuum and looking at the totality of it. Which trade is worse, the Mookie Betts trade or the Rafael Devers trade? Give me your thoughts on it.
I think that this is going to be like a nuanced answer a little bit. I think that the straight up just face value, who was sent out, who came back, the Mookie deal is still worse because, Mookie's a way better player than Devers is, even though Devers is a really, really good hitter, obviously. But like at the time, there was no sugarcoating it. Like when that deal went down, we were kind of like, that's it. Like there was just nothing to write home about. And like Verdugo had a decent year or two in Boston. Connor Wong's been up and down. Jeter Downs ended up being a massive bust, whatever. But like, just from a value perspective, like Mookie Betts was, in my eyes, should be valued as one of like the 5 most valuable players in the majors at that point. Obviously the contract situation looming, so that he was like quote unquote a rental, even though they end up extending him, whatever. But when you look at the bigger picture for both deals, I think the Devers deal is worse at this point because it was so avoidable. Like they had like 5 different decision points of things that could have went one way or the other. And if one of those goes differently, then, the deal doesn't need to happen. Like if they don't sign Bregman, which of course I wanted us to sign Bregman, but I'm just saying if you don't sign him, then Devers is probably happy and fine. If you actually just play Bregman at second base, then okay, cool. Devers is probably fine. If you actually have a real conversation with Devers and say, hey, by the way, we're pursuing Bregman. We think he might play third base. Like, are you open to DHing or playing first, etc.? Maybe it doesn't happen. So like there's all these self-inflicted decision gates that, went the way they shouldn't have gone that led to this. Whereas Mookie's is pretty cut and dry. Like they didn't want to pay him what he was worth. And that's kind of the moral of the story. So that's, again, a little long-winded there, but I kind of view him as like, from a value perspective, the Mookie one's worse. From a avoidability and just like didn't need to happen. And the context of everything makes it so much worse. I think the Devers one is worse.
So, well, I agree. So I was going to play devil's advocate. I would say both of them didn't need to happen. The Betts didn't need to happen.
Sure.
The Devers
I agree the Betts didn't need to happen, but if we just like operate under the assumption that they weren't going to pay him, then I'm kind of like, okay, then that's just what it is. Whereas like Devers, they already paid him. He was already signed. Like that's the thing that makes it crazy is like they're like the biggest hurdle for us to keep these players or acquire all these players that we've talked about nonstop is like the team being willing to spend money. And so they already had done that with him. That was the hard part was out of the way with Devers, and they still couldn't make it work is the point. And like so that's where I kind of like view it a little differently, where I'm like, they finally did agree to pay a guy and they still botched it.
Good point. Again, February, I have it on the screen. February 2020, the Mookie Betts trade went down. And I agree with you. I think the Devers trade is a lot worse, at least with the Betts trade, which was not ended up being a terrible trade too until this, what are we, 6 years later, we're still talking about
It's
it.
a terrible trade. I mean,
It's a
it was
terrible
terrible
trade.
at
I mean,
the
look-
time too. It was always
Yeah.
terrible. Even if
Look-
Jeter Downs like ended up being an MLB player, it was still terrible.
But look at those numbers, right? Jeter Downs, MLB career, a 162 hitter with 2 home runs. And then now he's playing in Japan for the
Yeah.
Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. I don't even know how to say that. That's where he is. Verdugo were DFA'd by the Braves in 2025. He's out of baseball. And then again, he at least, and this is where it's better than the Devers trade. At least Verdugo had 2 or 3 good seasons with the Red Sox.
He definitely had a positive impact while he was in Boston overall, even though there was some potential attitude issues, whatever, and they eventually cut ties. But like in 2021, they make the ALCS. He was a huge part of that team. There's no way around it. And they probably don't get to that point if he didn't have the season he did.
He's got a mid 700s OPS, a decent player that, to your point, could play on a team and actually start. He was a starter. Verdugo was a starter. I mean,
the bar is that low, but
yeah. Well, once we get to the Devers trade, right, I'm trying to make the point of like how bad the Devers trade is. And then Connor Wong, even though he had a terrible year last year, he had that 1 year where he batted close to 300 and had a decent year for the Red Sox. Again, though, look at that combined FWAR 4.7. I mean, that trade, none of those guys turned out to be anything spectacular, which is why I've argued in previous pods, don't fall in love with your prospects. If you go back to Twitter in 2020 and look at these trade conversations that were happening around the Mookie Betts and look at Dodger fans were actually saying, do not trade Dustin May for Mookie.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that move. And, you go back now 6 years later and like, yeah, you'd make the Dustin May trade in a second. And again, here are some top prospects. None of them have done anything. But at least they stay in the team. You look at the Devers trade, Hicks, which we just talked about, net negative. Tibbs, you trade him to the Dodgers, so you didn't get to even use him. And the guy you got back was worse, right? And then, again.
And now off the team.
Correct. And then what we made with Hicks is you had to give up Sandlin. So it's like a nested Russian doll with the Rafael Devers trade, and not in a good way. Just keeps kicking you in the balls every time you thought you're done with that trade.
Yep.
And one more piece has to come through on it, like the Sandlin part. And that's why I agree with you. The Devers trade is worse, much worse trade. I mean, I'm of the people. I mean, I've had this graphic on for a few minutes now. Like, look at these numbers, and then look at the mismanagement of the Devers trade.
I know.
Like,
that's why I
problem.
that's why I think it's worse, especially contextually. Is like, again, Verdugo off the team now, but like that trade of like trading him away in retrospect wasn't terrible. He was quite bad with the Yankees, out of baseball now, like you mentioned. Weissert, not a perfect reliever, but dude pitched like 60, 70 innings for the team last year and was like decent for most of the season. And then Fitz, we were able to flip in part of a deal for Sonny Gray. So like there are positives that have come out of that deal versus like you just go down the line of the Devers deal and it's like Hicks salary dump, like Tibbs dumped for, a 6 starts out of Dustin May where he had a 5 ERA. Like Jose Bayo, I mean, we'll see. I have zero expectations for him to turn into anything. And to be honest, I don't even know that much about him just because he's so young and the lower level of the minors still. But like we said, I mean, Kyle Harrison has to be way better than what we think he's going to be, or else it's nothing short of like a 1 out of 10 trade. I mean, like it's a disaster. There's no way around it. And again, if we had maybe kept Bregman, we'd have something to salvage where we're like, okay, we don't have him, but at least you could argue. I mean, I wouldn't say this, but you could say in some ways it was worth it just because now we have this other awesome player who like is more of a all around guy, good leadership, clubhouse, blah, blah. But now he's not on the team and they haven't done anything to replace him either. So it's like everything contextually around this just continues to be more and more of a disaster. And it is just, yeah, I think we're going to be talking about it for a while too.
We probably are going to be talking about it for a while. It's frustrating. Well, let me ask you this, Sean. With the Red Sox doing this, they're saving what? I get the number. I'm gonna lean on you for it. $8 million. What's the number actually come out of this thing? The
17 million over the next 2 years.
So like 8,
9,
about 8 million,
8.5. Yeah.
We'll call it $8 million. Yeah. So that $8 million saved. Do you think it's the Fenway Sports Group just because they've got a budget number that they want to be below? And the answer, of course, is yes. But whatever number they were at, right? No one has infinite money. Whatever number they were at, they were over that, so they wanted to bring it down. Or is it because the trade market that they were looking to materialize for, like an Isaac Paredes, Ketel Marte back in the day, isn't where they want it to be, so they want to get their payroll down to get Eugenio Suarez or another free agent? Is that the next domino to fall? Which one is it?
Well, I have some news for you. There was just a tweet that Suarez signed with the Cincinnati Reds on a 1-year, $15 million deal.
He's going back home. He was there before.
Yeah, he was there before.
Give me what's the contract?
1 for 15. That was just in the last 20 minutes. They tweeted it out. So while we were on here. So not for that, because
what the hell? What the?
There's not, I don't know from a hitting perspective. There's really nobody who's even like a clear-cut starting caliber guy, at least that I can think of in the infield, that you could play second or thirds.
We couldn't give him $15 million for 1 year. The Red
They
Sox
did just
love 1
save.
year.
They just saved 17. So in theory, they could. It would have been. They'd still have lower payroll. Well, I guess it's 2 years versus 1 year, so never mind. But I don't know.
But even that luxury, and I had to crunch the numbers. We're on the air. I can't do it right now. But even with that CBT, sorry, not the CBT, the luxury tax threshold, the one they would go over, would be minimal. It's the one after that would hurt them. They probably still would net out at being zero.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was going to answer before that news came out that it's possible that they maybe pivot to Suarez now, and at this point I wouldn't have hated it because it's a 1 year deal, 15 million, whatever. Like it's
terrible.
Not that much. And again, I still would have hated the defensive positioning because he would have had to play third full time, basically.
You could have DH'd him. You could have
but then.
Well, no, against lefties. Against
Yoshida
lefties.
And
lefties, you'd have Yoshida sit, and then versus lefty, you have Suarez there. Versus
and then
righty,
Rafael at second, you're saying?
That's another podcast. I don't know what the hell they're going to... Well, I want to talk about Campbell. We're not going to probably be able to do it in this one. But again, frustration with the Red Sox once more of not having a strategic mindset of a 3 to 5 year plan because they jerked Campbell all over the place. The news came out earlier this week that they're trying him at second base, which is bullshit. Like if that's, a really good organization is going to buckle down and say, Campbell's our second base in the future. Therefore, he's going to take all the reps last year in the minors at second base. They are just throwing him all. They're gonna ruin him. They're gonna ruin him. I fucking hate this organization. I really do. I just cannot stand the way they handle shit. Anyways, with Suarez gone, where do they go then? What do they do?
I mean, I feel like it has to be a trade, but I'm very begrudgingly starting to think that they're just gonna roll with what they got. And there were reports that this week, I think it was John Heyman or someone said that like they would be comfortable with the Hamilton and Romy platoon at second, which to me is just like,
no one wants that.
How did we get to that? Well, that's back to your point on Campbell. I'm like, if the alternative is Hamilton and Romy at second, then why the hell not just throw him out at second and just like let him just make mistakes and do his thing? Like, I can't understand how they would be confident about him being the second baseman last year. And then now they're not, like a full year later. I know he struggled last year, but like, what does that say about how they view him? If they were good enough, like cool with going into him or into last year with him as a starting second baseman, and this year they would rather have Hamilton and Romy platooning rather than him starting. Like, if that's genuinely their take, then they should trade him while he's got more value, because like, to me, that says they have zero confidence in him. Like, I mean, zero confidence whatsoever, which is just, I cannot fathom the idea of David Hamilton being like a more than just a bench player. Like, that is absurd to me.
I mean, well, I was going to, let me share my screen. I was going to wait to have this for when we actually talked about Campbell, and we'll see.
Well, I think he's relevant here. I mean, we can talk through him a little bit.
Yeah, but we're up against time. I wanted to have a bigger conversation about Campbell versus Shaw, but look at those defensive numbers. I mean, we can use this.
They were bad.
But look,
don't get me wrong.
And that's like in 60 games. Look at that DRS.
Yeah, it's very bad.
-16 in 60 games. -16. Hamlin's not a good fielder either, but I get your point though.
Well, neither is Romy at second. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm more saying this from the perspective of the alternatives. Like, if Romy was this super sharp glove, like Gold Glove level second baseman, then that's a different conversation. But he's not. I mean, he was like an average first baseman on defense and definitely below average when he would have to play second. And Hamilton's not great either. So I'm like, the alternative is, like, we know what we're getting out of those guys, and the ceiling's significantly lower. The floor is also really low with those guys, I still believe. And of course, the floors are really low with Campbell, but at least you've got the ceiling there. Like, if you're not going to sign these sure things that we've been talking about all offseason, then your only other option is to go with upside. Like, because otherwise, going with sure things that aren't very good is like, we can't afford that in this lineup. Like, I know the defense might not be great from Campbell, and well, you see the numbers here. It's not just not great; it's really bad. But just like, but just commit to him at second and see what happens. And like, obviously,
well, they should have committed last year. It was bullshit what they did to him last year. Let's play him at first. Let's play him in the outfield.
They had no plan.
A legit no plan. A legit top-tier organization that has a long-term plan would look at Christian Campbell and say, all right, I can see a 3 to 5 year plan. He's our second baseman. We're going to let him spend the whole year playing second base down in the minors. That's not what they did. They threw him all over the goddamn place. There was a player when I was a kid, I think he was indicted with murder charges too. And if he wasn't, I'm really sorry for saying that he was. But his name was Wilfredo Cordero, and he played for the Red Sox. He was a very, very good hitter, and he was a shortstop for the Expos when we grabbed him. We then put him at second base, and he wasn't that good. He just could not pick the ball up off the bat at second base. It comes from a different angle. He's really struggled with it, right? And so for anyone to think you can just take a shortstop and put them at second base or move guys in different positions and expect that defensive run saved and ground and double play metrics to be positive is a bunch of bullshit. They need time to learn on it. So Cordero is a great example of where you just can't just plug and play a guy another position. Campbell's type of guy, probably the same exact metrics. You just can't just take him from one position and say, here, learn a bunch of all these positions in 1 year and then go play in the majors for us. It doesn't work that way. And so which really pisses me off about this organization, again, this is why I'm so frustrated, is what is your plan? What do the Red Sox do? Like, what is your plan for these young players? Where is Campbell going to play? And so you look at those numbers, it's, immediately you think not second base, but I think he can. I just think he's time, and they don't have time. That's the problem as well. They don't have time.
Yeah, but where I'm coming from is just like, look, they have no longer given themselves the luxury of like just putting him down in AAA and letting him do like, they might need his bat. They might literally need his bat. And of course, there's no guarantee that he's going to like produce at the level that we know he can or expect him to, at least in his prime, because obviously he really, really struggled after the first month last season. And even in the minors was, fine, got off to a slow start, but then picked it up towards the end of the year. But they need his upside. The lineup is just not good enough for what they need it to be. And so that's kind of why I'm like, if they're not going to add somebody to be the everyday infielder at either second or third, and obviously you can move Marcelo around at either of those spots, then I just don't see it. I don't know how he's not the best option is kind of what I'm saying. And if you actually think that he's not the best option as the organization, then they should trade him, because that says to me, they don't believe in him, because like we have this massive, massive hole at the exact position that he was supposed to be advertised to be playing. And it's not like he got reps in the majors last year. He got a ton of reps in AAA last year. Like, it might not be a perfect season for him this year, like it wasn't last year. But like, if it's not now, then when's it going to be where you're going to feel comfortable putting him there? And then, I don't know.
Let me ask you, Sean, there is legit, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's going to happen, but the fact that there are people on Twitter talking about putting Duran at second base blows my mind. I can't think of any organization, when I've been a Red Sox fan for a long time. I mean, a little kid from the 90s on, I have never been a fan of an organization where the fan base is legitimately talking about moving guys out of position to play positions just to make this roster fit. And that, take a step back, 5,000-foot view, and look at it from that angle, where we're having conversations about playing players in positions they don't normally play, is everything that's wrong about the front office, this organization, and how we are moving towards spring training with an unfinished product. We talked about it in pod 1 through every pod so far about a mismanagement of assets. And we both felt like there's absolutely no way a professional organization is going to get to March with this level of chaos. But here we are with spring training, with pitchers and catchers about 10 days away, and the chaos is there, and you've got a lineup that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Get the adults into the room and get the kids out. I mean, even with Kayam, it wasn't this bad. I mean, you can say what you want about Kayam not making moves. At least you knew who your starting 9 were going to be. You don't know
They
right
weren't
now.
very good, but yeah.
No, but you knew. And you know what? The Harrison thing, if you ask me the number 5 starter is going to be, there's going to be a lot of pressure for it to be Harrison. A lot of pressure.
I'd be shocked if it was.
Yeah, if it's not,
to be honest,
I mean, if it's not, the media.
I hope it's not, because I don't think he's the best
We don't
option.
know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I mean, I think that the pressure is sort of on Oviedo to be that guy, because he's been in rotations already, and they gave up one of their top 5 prospects for him. So when it wasn't necessarily a position of need at the time, anyway. So
well, and that's another point too, right? So make it only Craig can put so much pressure on 2 guys with only one of them having a starting rotation spot.
Yeah,
right.
It's fair. Well, he's done such a poor job of holistically looking at things from like 10,000 feet, like we've talked about, like the Ranger Suarez signing. He can say what he wants about how it was an independent pursuit. Like, it was obviously because they didn't get Bregman. If they signed Bregman, they would not have signed Ranger Suarez. There's just no ifs, ands, and
the
buts
money and
about
math
it.
Don't math the money with Bregman there.
Exactly. And so like that was a pivot, and just all you need to know is take like videos of Craig Breslow talking about the team needs and the roster in early December, and take it now. Early December, all he was saying was, we need a little bit more thump in the lineup. We need to add power. Like, the best teams are able to hit the ball over the fence. We need more of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now he's like, we might want to focus more on defense and run prevention. And I'm like, you're just openly admitting that you failed at your goal. His goal was to add power. He didn't do it. And now he's completely moving the goalposts to be like, well, now we're going to prioritize this. And I'm like, I guess he had to pivot in some way, but I'm like, he had no conviction to actually accomplish the goals that he like set out to accomplish this offseason. Like, again, we talked about Pete Alonso. Like, we could have, if they had just signed him off the bat to the exact same contract that Baltimore did, like half the conversations we're having, we wouldn't even be having. Like, they could have let Bregman go still, and it wouldn't have been like fine. Like, obviously we would have preferred to have both, but it wouldn't have been like, none of this discourse would have been a thing at all. They could have reallocated the, things that they gave up for Contreras for something else. Maybe they use that to get a pitcher, and then they don't have to sign Suarez. And so like, there's a whole trickle down effect there. But like, he made it very clear, and he did it to no one but himself. He's the one who said, these are my goals. These are what I want to add to the roster. And he's added none of that.
And again, I go back to, what the fuck's your plan, Craig? The Sandoval move, the Hicks move, the Devers move.
He's just so reactionary. That's my point. It's like, but one thing goes one way, and then he's like, I guess I'll do this instead. And then now he's got too many eggs in the same kind of basket, and then he doesn't know how to get out of it.
It's right. And for everyone out there saying, well, Henry calls the shots. It's a Henry thing. He sets the budget, et cetera. He sets the budget, the top line budget. He sets it 100%. I agree. Right. Breslow can only spend X amount of money, but then it's on Breslow to spend it wisely. They never they spent money on Sandoval. Was it $12 million a year?
It was a waste.
It's a waste.
It's a huge waste.
He has no space on this team. He's got no space on this team at all. That's $12 million plus the Hicks, 20-something.
And $12 million last year too. I mean, it's like,
it's $24 million right there, where it's just wasted money. And you might say they can't spend on the Dodgers. That's fine. They can't. Henry's not allowing them. But you're mismanaging $24 million because you don't have a plan. And that's what's frustrating. You got no plan. $24 million gets you a lot. Mm-hmm. What is not that they would grab, but what? That's a bad example. Give me someone making $24 million this year that's signing the offs. I mean, it's Gino Suarez and someone else. I mean, it goes on. Like, it's a team that does not make sense the way it's constructed. They've got no plan, no 5-year plan. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're running everything year to year. It's a year to year, and then you're watching wasted assets. I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan, just make the point. Sandoval's got no role in this team, $12 million. Hicks had no role in this team, whatever the hell it was, $12 million. That's $24 million right there, $25 million. $5 million, and you don't know what the hell you're doing with it because you don't have a bigger vision. And that's why it's a failure. I say all this, Sean. I say all this, but we're going to make the playoffs this year. We're going to make the playoffs this year. I say all this, but we're going to make the playoffs this year.
I obviously want us to, but part of me would have a small evil satisfaction of like, it might force them to really look in the mirror and be like, man, we've kind of fucked up the last couple off seasons. Like, obviously I want I'm just saying.
and
I'm
fire
sorry.
him like Bloom
I want them
and
to
Ben
make the playoffs.
Cherington.
I'm
and
more just
they-
saying that like it's like last year them making the playoffs. Like Craig felt like vindicated for trading Devers. You know what I mean?
It drove me nuts.
Yeah,
It
and that's what
drove
I'm
me
saying. I'm
nuts on
like, I don't
Twitter.
want him to
People
have
all
that
stuck up.
satisfaction
Yeah.
because it's bullshit. Like
It is.
they would have made the playoffs if they didn't make that trade also. And they would have had more of a chance to actually win a series if they didn't make that trade. Like imagine that last year's team with just Devers on it and no Harrison. Not like he really did anything on the
No
team
Jordan
anyway.
Hicks.
No Jordan Hicks, which is probably a net
You
positive.
get 2
anyway.
wins.
Yeah,
You got 2
extra
wins with no
exactly.
Jordan Hicks.
Exactly.
Yeah, no Dustin May, no Jordan Hicks.
And then like 25 extra home runs from Devers, so I'm just like, I just don't. That's all I'm saying. I do not actually wish that they missed the playoffs, obviously, because I want to see the team do well. Cause I'm invested emotionally, whether I like it or not. But I'm more just saying that like the more that they get vindicated from like these botched moves is just like frustrates me even more because then he can say, see, look, like I told you that, what blah, 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 whatever it ends up being. So
Well, that's the problem with Twitter. Twitter will come at you and say, what they'll say to you is like, well, he made the playoffs. I go, I could take a goddamn baby off the street, put him in that fucking role. They're making the playoffs. He had nothing to do with them making the playoffs. If anything, the team got worse. He had a bag of riches and squandered some of them. And then the Crochet deal, I'm sorry, any one of us would have made that goddamn deal. That's not a hard deal to make. I'm making that deal 10 times out of 10 every time. That is not something that you're paying him $1 million to do. You're paying him a couple $1 million to make. If he's forced to make a Devers trade, let's say he's forced to do it. He doesn't lose. Not only lost in terms of talent back, he got worse. I mean, I'd never heard of that. Like I never heard of trading players getting worse with what you get back. So much so that we're still getting nut tapped in 2026 by giving up more players to get out of the hole. That's the part that pisses me off. And yet we'll still make the playoffs. We'll make it this year. They're too good not to. They're too good not to.
I'm still terrible. I mean, I'm just like, God, if you had told me in November, December that we'd be seriously, legitimately talking about starting Hamilton and Romy at a platoon at second, I would have been
in 2025, I didn't want
unwell.
Hamilton on this team. I was calling out, like, I want Vaughn Grisham here. I want Vaughn Grisham.
I agree with that too. I mean, it's because of the righty lefty thing, I think. But I'm like, why? Again, it's the same sort of thing with Campbell. I'm like, okay, you trade for this guy who Grisham was like pretty highly regarded at the time. Like
very highly. We gave Chris Sale for him and paid Chris Sale's contract. Another terrible trade.
It was a terrible trade. But I'm just saying, even like at the time, it didn't seem that bad because we didn't know Sale was going to bounce back the way he had. I mean, he just had not been able to stay healthy. He hadn't had a good year in a while. And Grisham did look kind of promising. But to your point, I'm like, it did the same thing they did with Campbell, where they brought him up for a little. He struggled. And then he was just banished. And we never saw him again. And I'm like, look, it's not like I know he's not tearing it up in AAA, but like, I can't believe they never gave him at least one other opportunity in the major league just to see. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? And I'm like, some guys end up not all development's linear. Some guys get called up and they end up like better than they were performing in the minors. Like it does happen. So I'm just like, that's kind of where I'm at, where I was saying with Campbell is I'm like, so what? Okay. So if he's not starting this year, when's he going to start? Like he's going to do a whole nother year in the minor leagues. And then like he was a top 10 prospect in all of baseball. How many guys are that highly regarded? And then 2 years after they debut, we still don't even know if they're starting like on the major league. Like that's insane to me.
We don't even know their position.
Yeah.
You look at the top 10 this year, I guarantee you the top 10 players in this year's MLB prospects, in 2 years from now, we will not be having a conversation about what position they are playing in 2028, 2029.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So if they really do not intend to have him play, and again, look, if they'd signed Bregman, for example, and then Marcelo was playing second, then I'd shut up. I'd be like, fine, I get it. There's not really a spot for him. We'll see how it goes. But there is a spot for him right now. And so if they still don't take advantage of that, then they completely lose me with the whole thing. And I'm like, then, like I said, I'm not saying I want to trade him because I think he can still be really good. But if we operate under the assumption that they have no intent of giving him full-time reps this year in the major leagues, then given the hole they have, then they should trade him because his value is going to go down. If he starts the year in AAA and struggles a little bit, his value is just going to keep plummeting, and then he might not be good, and we may not get much for him. And so that's where I'm at. Like, if we had thrown in him plus Early plus Duran, maybe I bet you we could have gotten Ketel Marte back in December, but they, to your point, they didn't have a plan. They were kind of just putting all their eggs in the Bregman basket, and they botched that, and so they get left with nothing.
I'm also we'll wrap this podcast up. I'm going to tell you right now, Sean. I don't know, but I feel like I've seen this movie enough, and we'll be talking about this as well. Maybe in 2027, Vaughn Grisham will have a better season and career than the combo of Romy Gonzalez and David Hamilton. So pencil that in too. Like, you could have just had your second baseman with Vaughn Grisham. You could have just had Vaughn Grisham, who'd be better than Romy and Hamilton combined. We'll see if it's true or not, but it's not unlikely. You're not going to...
It wouldn't be hard. I mean, look, Romy had a good year last year, but you've heard me talk about that. I'm a little worried that it's going to be one of those like outlier Daniel Nava years that we had, or that outlier Sandy Leon year we had, where like these guys bat three.
Let's poke at the Yankee fans. Outlier Trent Grisham year.
Well, exactly. Like, it happens. These guys that are journeymen and then get a little bit of an opportunity to platoon, play super well, and then aren't able to replicate it. Again, I hope I'm wrong with him, but I don't really view him as an everyday guy. And then Hamilton, I mean, he couldn't hit anything last year, so I'm not even sure
he's bad
he's
defensively, like, even with his
I'm
speed,
not even sure he's a major league player, to be honest with you. So I'd rather have Grisham than Hamilton all 10 out of 10 times. I mean, we'll see about Romy, but
so that's and we can save a whole nother podcast for all the bad trades and moves that Craig has made, from the sale.
Do a draft of the worst trades.
I mean, Devers trade, and we can talk about what just happened with Sandlin, and talk about letting Vaughn Grisham go for nothing, but you have no plan, so you've got no second baseman, and Vaughn Grisham could be just as good as David Hamilton, Romy Gonzalez combo. It's unbelievable. All right, we gotta wrap it up. We're a little over an hour. So for everyone listening that made it through for the hour with us, thank you again. As we said before, we are one of the fastest growing podcasts in Red Sox Nation, and we appreciate all you guys being there with us and listening to us. If you made it to the end, please make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this. John, the one thing I forgot to do, we're going to do it moving forward. I want to make it a thing. When we drink our beers, mine's gone. When we drink our beers, for the people that have been here before, we're going to say salute. And for those that are new to the podcast, because we're growing, we're getting a lot of new subscribers, so a lot of new subscribers every week. We're going to welcome to the family. What do you think?
Sounds good.
We're going to tell them, like, grab your beer, show up. If you're 21 plus, grab your beer, show up. Welcome to the family, and take a drink with us. If you're not 21 plus, grab your Gatorade, grab your apple juice, join us for some beers.
Yeah, we'll do a big cheers to start off. So
we'll do some Ziggy Zaggy for those that are old enough to remember.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're wrapping it up. Thank you again. Thank you. We'll come at you guys next week. If nothing happens between now and next week, I really want to talk about Christian Campbell and Matt Shaw and have that conversation with you as well.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You've been listening to 64 Deep Red Sox podcast, coming at you next week as well with some new content. Have a nice night.